first of all recognize our Grand Marshal of our parade this year. I hope most of you saw the parade. Our Grand Marshal is Jerry McMurtry. Jerry's a lifelong resident of Miamisburg. Jerry is a proud past commander of American Legion Post 165. He's been very active on our post for a number of years. He's one of the longest serving Honor Guard members. He served on the Honor Guard for 54 years. Wow. It's quite an accomplishment. Jerry volunteered for the Navy in July of 1952. He entered basic training at Bainbridge Naval Training Center in Maryland. Upon completion of basic training, he served 6 months as a Master of Arms in the mess hall while waiting for his assignment. He was then assigned to the USS Blair, a destroyer called an anti-submarine. It was part of the anti-submarine warfare. The ship traveled up and down the East Coast, protecting the waterways and looking for enemies. He went as far south as Guantanamo Bay and all up and down the East Coast. Jerry was very active on our Sister City program with Owen Sound for years. Had gone to Canada and helped greet our Owen Sound neighbors when they come to, and we host them here in Miamisburg. So let's give a big hand to Jerry McMurtry. It's with great pleasure that I introduce our Honorable Mayor, Dick Church. He's going to offer our keynote address.
Thank you, and welcome to Veterans Park for this very special Memorial Day service. I want to comment first about the crowd. This is probably one of the best crowds that we've had, and I really, truly appreciate it, and I'm sure that these veterans that we're honoring here today appreciate it. And remember, he said over 1 million people have lost their lives in war. In Miamisburg, since the Revolutionary War, we have lost 101 of our men and women in the different wars that have been held. Before I get started with the address, there's a few people I want to thank. The band's left, but I'll tell you, school's out, and the director really didn't know if he was going to be able to get enough students here. And I think he did a wonderful job. Let's give the Miamisburg High School band and Steve Allward their director. I also want to thank our police and our Parks and Recreation Department. At the different cemeteries today, we've been honored to have Piper Tim Shapper, and from West Carrollton, Ryan Waskey was the trumpeter that played taps. I know they've already been thanked, but I cannot tell you how much, from the city standpoint, I appreciate American Legion Post 165, the Miamisburg Historical Society Veterans Committee, and especially their commander, Wayne Kern, and Randy Staley, who is chair of the Vets Committee. Let's really give them a round of applause. I want to introduce members of City Council that are with us. Our Vice Mayor, Mike McCabe. Councilwoman Michelle Collins. Councilman Ryan Colvin. Councilman Greg Thompson. And I believe that takes care of that. And our Superintendent of Schools, Dr. David Vail. We have Montgomery County Juvenile Court Judge Tony Capizzi back there with the red and white balloons. Bob Matthews from Miami Township, trustee, was supposed to be here. I don't. And is there any other township trustees here? It's hard to see from up here. But anyway, we thank you. Was it worth it? This is a question sometimes politically loaded that is often asked of family members and war buddies of our fallen heroes. Marine Corps General John Kelly recently offered a unique perspective. A veteran of Iraq and Afghanistan himself, General Kelly lost his youngest son, First Lieutenant Robert Kelly, while conducting combat operations in Helmand Province in 2010. General Kelly was asked if the loss was worth it by a reporter with the National Public Radio, and he said, and I quote, "I think what I tell families now is that the only person really that has a right to answer that question, was it worth it, is the young man or woman that lost their life. And I believe what they would say is that they were doing what they wanted to do. They were there because they wanted to be." So the answer, I think, to that question is not for us that survived to answer it. I think it's for those young people to answer, and I think they do answer it with their actions and definitely their lives, unquote. Who can deny the heartfelt wisdom and logic of General Kelly's words? But just as we should not presume to speak for the fallen, we can make the country for which they died a better place, one that honors their sacrifice and represents the ideas enshrined in our Constitution. In 2003, Army Private First Class Diego Renkin of Conyers, Georgia, wrote to his mother from Iraq. The letter stated, "Whether I make it or not, it's all part of the plan. It can't be changed, only completed. Mother will be the last word I'll say. Your face will be the last picture that goes through my eyes. I just hope that you're proud of what I'm doing and have faith in my decisions." Private First Class Renkin died soon after writing that letter. The American Legion and the VFW will always be proud of the selfless service of Robert Kelly, Diego Renkin, and the more than 1 million men and women who have made the supreme sacrifice for the United States since our nation's founding. General Kelly is right. Was it worth it is the wrong question for us to answer. Instead, we should commit ourselves to make it worth it. We should insist that America remain the land of the free, a land where patriotism outdoes politics, where the American flag is displayed proudly and frequently, and where military veterans are society's true celebrities. We must never, never forget the families of our fallen. Long after the battlefield guns have been silenced and the bombs stop exploding, the children of our fallen warriors will still be missing a parent. Spouses will be without their life partners. Parents will continue to grieve for their heroic sons and daughters that died way too early. We need to be there for them, not just as members of the American Legion family or the VFW family, but as American citizens. Nobody can replace these fallen heroes, especially in the eyes of their families. But we can offer shoulders to cry on, assistance with educational expenses, and assurances that their loved one's sacrifice will not be forgotten. While there is nothing unpatriotic about an auto race, a trip to the beach, or a barbecue, we are here today to reflect on the true meaning of Memorial Day. Let us remember that dictatorial regimes have been toppled and genocide stopped because Americans sacrificed life and limb. Let us remember that terrorist plots were foiled and killers brought to justice because Americans were willing to pay a high price. Let us remember that without a U.S. military, the world would be a far more oppressive and darker place. Let us remember that freedom never had a greater friend than the American soldier, sailor, airman, Marine, and Coast Guardsman. The preamble to the Constitution of the American Legion charges their organization to preserve the memories and instance of their associations in the Great Wars. It serves as a reminder that while some gave their all, we should more willingly give much to help keep our nation worthy of their sacrifice. Lydia Bixley, a Boston widow, was believed to have lost 5 sons in service to the Union during the Civil War. President Lincoln's letter to the grieving mother was read on screen by the actor portraying General George Marshall in the film Saving Private Ryan. That letter reads as follows. Dear Madam, I have been shown in the files of the War Department a statement of the Adjutant General that you are the mother of 5 sons who have died gloriously on the field of battle. I feel how weak and fruitless must be any word of mine which should attempt to beguile you from the grief of a loss so overwhelming. But I cannot refrain from tendering you the consolation that may be found in the thanks of the Republic they died to save. I pray that our Heavenly Father may ease the anguish of your bereavement and leave you only with the cherished memory of the loved and the lost, and the solemn pride that must be yours to have laid so costly a sacrifice upon that altar of freedom. Yours very sincerely and respectfully, Abraham Lincoln. To us, the sacrifice made by Mrs. Bixby, the loss of her sons in a war to preserve our great Union and end slavery, was certainly worth it. But the answer is much more complex. If it is your son, daughter, wife, or husband that will be sacrificed on freedom's altar. Some veterans have said that it is more difficult to send your family to war than to go yourself. So while the was it worth it question can only truly be answered by those who made the sacrifice, it is up to all of us to make it worth it. Thank you for being here. God bless America, and God bless our fallen heroes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At this time, I'd like to introduce Jim Caldwell. He's going to lead a service explaining an explanation of the Pledge of Allegiance.